So today we want to talk about the Sdlc. Now, Sdlc is an acronym. What does it mean? Sometimes people call it the software development lifecycle, but it actually represents system development lifecycle. A lot of times you consider software a system, that's fine. But technically, system development lifecycle is what we're talking about, and it does deal with software. The overall process for developing information systems from the planning phase all the way through analysis and through implementation and maintenance is referred to really as a circle. Planning and then analysis of the issue. You want to plan based on that analysis of the need for the particular system. You design the system, you develop the system, you test it, of course you implement it, and then after it's implemented, it's maintained. Before we go on, we need to have a word from our program management office.
Warning: this presentation includes steps necessary to complete a software development project. Any similarity to waterfall methods is purely coincidental and not intended. Trying to complete a software development project via the waterfall method will result in angry managers due to spending more than requested and taking longer than expected.
So, the planning phase establishes a high-level plan. It determines the project goals, basically. The analysis phase then analyzes the end-user business requirements, refines those project goals into defined functions and operations of the intended system. Then you go through a design phase. Now, the design phase establishes the descriptions of all the features that are part of the system, how it's supposed to operate, the screens that are going to come up, the business rules. It diagrams all the processes and it can at times use pseudocode or other documentation. The development phase then takes that documentation and starts developing all of the particular pieces and parts of the software system so that it can actually put it into an actual functioning system. The testing phase then, of course, tests all those things to make sure they're meeting the user requirements. The implementation phase, of course, is then when you send it out to the customer. Now, sending it out to the customer, of course, a lot of times involves the user acceptance testing, and that user acceptance testing then determines whether the software is fit for use and ready for the actual deployment, which is part of that implementation phase. And then, of course, it goes into maintenance, which, you do corrections that come up when the business changes a little bit. You add other features, you upgrade the system so that it continues to meet all of those business goals. Now, poor Winston Rice. I have to really pity the man, unfortunately, because Winston Rice was a computer scientist, and he basically postulated that you had to do all of these things that I've been talking about and in order to develop a system. So he developed a paper that he presented in 1970, and everybody drew from that this is a waterfall software development project. Well, we all know that waterfall has kind of been given a bad name, but the problem is this is the way he drew the process of developing software. From requirements to analysis to design to development, or coding he called it, testing, and then, of course, operating, which would be maintenance. This was a picture taken directly from his paper. Well, the problem is he drew it this way, but in the paragraph right after that, he said, I believe in this concept, but the implementation described above is risky and invites failure. In other words, he said if you take the requirements and do the analysis and design the program back on your back office there, and you're not communicating with the customer, you're just coding it and testing it yourself, and then you say, voila, here's your system. The problem with that is by the time you get to that, voila, here it is, generally the system won't be exactly what the customer wanted. In other words, the requirements usually are the best that the customer can give you, but your understanding of what they were talking about, or their understanding of what they were trying to describe to you may in fact be quite different than what they had actually intended. In fact, most of the time is, and when you get to the final product, if you haven't been communicating with the customer all along the way and expecting changes and modifications to those requirements that you understood at the beginning, you probably won't end up hitting the target at the end. So we have Winston Royce being credited with the waterfall, which of course is not at all what we intend here with the systems development life cycle. The systems development life cycle tells just what each of the components are, but there's a lot of better ways, like Agile, to actually do the implementation. So if you like this video, hit the like button and please subscribe so we can keep getting you better content. Talk to you later. Bye.